My name is Wanderlust, and today I'm taking you somewhere we all dream of visiting, the ultimate paradise, Bora Bora. But not everything in paradise is as it seems. This is the story of my wedding. A dream destination wedding that quickly turned into something I could never have imagined. Something that still haunts me to this day. My husband John and I had been planning our wedding for what felt like forever. We had saved, researched, and daydreamed about this moment since the day we got engaged. A wedding in Bora Bora, overwater bungalows, pristine beaches, the perfect sunset. It felt like a dream come true. We arrived in Bora Bora on a warm late afternoon. The sky above was a vivid shade of orange, and the water shimmered like a mirror, reflecting the colours of the heavens. We were staying at a luxurious resort, one of those places that felt so far removed from reality that it almost seemed like a fantasy. The kind of resort where every detail is catered to your desires, where the world feels like it's been made just for you. It was everything we'd ever imagined, and more. But there was something different, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. The staff at the resort were kind, almost too kind. They greeted us with soft smiles that seemed rehearsed, and their eyes held a certain vacancy. It was unsettling, but I chalked it up to the pressure of hospitality, and we tried to settle in. Our bungalow was perched above the crystal-clear water, and we had a perfect view of the horizon. It should have been paradise. But there was a strange silence that hung in the air. No birds chirped. No wind rustled the palms. The ocean was too still. The kind of stillness that made the world feel like it was holding its breath. Our wedding day arrived, and I woke up with excitement and nerves twisting in my stomach. John was already up, pacing the deck outside, looking out at the water with a thoughtful expression. "Is everything okay?" I asked, stepping outside. John turned to me, a small smile on his face, though his eyes seemed distant. "Yeah, just soaking it all in. This place is something else." I nodded, but my gaze wandered back to the water. There it was again, a ripple in the distance, a shadow that seemed to move beneath the surface, but it disappeared before I could make sense of it. I brushed it off. After all, we were on a tropical island, surrounded by nature. It could have been anything. We went through the ceremony, just the two of us, barefoot in the sand, the officiant, a local man with a deep, soothing voice, speaking in a language I couldn't understand, but his words were calm, almost hypnotic. John squeezed my hand, and we exchanged our vows as the sun dipped lower on the horizon, bathing everything in a golden light. But then, just as we were about to say our final vows, something strange happened. I looked out at the water, and for a split second I saw it. A dark shape just beneath the surface, moving with slow, deliberate motions. My breath caught in my throat. I blinked, trying to focus. It was as if the water itself had something hidden, something alive beneath it. "Do you see that?" I whispered to John, my voice trembling. He followed my gaze, but the shadow had vanished. "I don't see anything," he said, though I noticed a flicker of unease in his eyes. "Maybe it's just your nerves. Let's focus on us." I nodded, but that moment stuck with me. I couldn't shake the image of the shadow beneath the water. We finished the ceremony, and the reception was everything I'd imagined. Romantic, intimate, with soft music playing in the background as we danced on the beach, the ocean's calm waves lapping at the shore. The staff served champagne, but for some reason my glass tasted off. Too sweet, like syrup, cloying. I barely drank it, but I kept the glass in my hand, trying to shake off the unease that was beginning to settle in. As the night fell, we retired to our bungalow, the stillness outside thicker now, almost suffocating. The wind was completely gone, replaced by the sound of my own heartbeat. "I'm going to take a shower," I told John, trying to shake the strange feeling that had been creeping in. "All right," he said with a smile. "I'll wait for you." But as I stepped into the bathroom, I could hear something. Voices. Low, distant murmurs. My heart raced, and I turned off the water, straining my ears to listen. Nothing. I shook it off and finished my shower, but when I stepped out, I noticed that John was gone. His side of the bed was empty, the covers tossed aside as if he had gotten up in a hurry. "John!" I called out, my voice echoing in the empty bungalow. There was no response. A sinking feeling hit my stomach. I looked outside. He wasn't on the deck. I quickly stepped out into the cool night air, calling his name, but all I heard was the sound of my own voice breaking the oppressive silence. The moon was full, casting long shadows across the beach. The water, eerily still, reflected the stars like a glass mirror. I walked toward the edge of the deck, my breath coming quicker now, a sense of dread creeping up my spine. I looked down into the water, scanning the dark depths. Then I saw it. A shape. A figure. It wasn't human. It was too long, too thin, like a limb reaching up from the depths, fingers stretching toward me. I stepped back, my legs trembling. My heart pounded in my chest. My eyes locked on the figure, the shape still floating beneath the surface, moving closer to the edge of the bungalow. The whispers I had heard earlier suddenly returned, louder this time, unmistakable voices, old, familiar, chanting in a language I couldn't understand. "John?" I whispered, my voice cracking. A faint laugh echoed from the water, distant but unmistakable. "Come to me," it whispered. I spun around, panic setting in. Where was John? I couldn't let him be down there. I ran back into the bungalow, searching every room. But he was gone. There was no trace of him. No note, no sign of a struggle. Just an empty room, an empty bed, and the same unsettling silence. I bolted back outside, calling his name desperately, but the beach was empty, the water as still as glass. The whispers grew louder, as if the island itself was alive, breathing, beckoning. And then from the water I heard it. John's voice. "Come, join me." I felt a chill run down my spine, my feet frozen to the sand. The voice was distant but unmistakable. I could hear the faint sound of waves gently lapping against the shore, but it felt like they were coming from a different world entirely. With trembling hands I reached into the water, the coolness of the ocean biting into my skin. But there was nothing. Just the ring, his wedding ring, floating just below the surface. I grabbed it. It was cold to the touch, too cold. The whispering stopped, and in the silence I could hear my own breath. I backed away, clutching the ring, my body shaking. I never saw John again. The next morning I was found on the beach, clutching John's ring. The resort staff took me back to my bungalow, but they never spoke of him. The island kept its secret and I kept mine. I couldn't stay in Bora Bora any longer. I left the island in a daze, my heart heavy with the memories I couldn't shake. To this day, I don't know what happened to John. I don't know if the island took him or if something else happened. I only know this: sometimes the ocean doesn't just keep its secrets, it guards them. So, my fellow wanderers, if you ever find yourself walking along the shores of Bora Bora, dreaming of a perfect wedding, be careful. The water is beautiful, yes, but it has a way of taking what it wants, and sometimes it doesn't give it back. Until next time, this is Wanderlust, reminding you to always tread carefully, for some destinations are more dangerous than they seem.